Okay, we should be live. I will just check quickly on my telephone, on my phone, if I'm seeing the live. If we have somebody joining and you could give us a short feedback if you are watching live, if everything is working well, you can hear me well, that would be of great help. And after that, we will start and I can introduce my host. But it looks like we are live, yeah. Okay, I guess then we'll just start, and if you are not hearing us, if there is any issue, just say it on the chat and we will happily try to make it better, but it looks fine. I am tonight with Slivek. Hello, happy to get you on this live. For those of you guys who don't know him, I think he's an important person in this game since a couple of years due to his role as a judge for ETC. You have been judge now for how long, Slivek?
I was refereeing since 2017 on ETCs, and before that I was basically I started refereeing at the beginning of 9th age.
Okay.
Before that I was just a player.
And apart from the judge role, did you also do any kind of activities for the project?
Sorry, can you say it again?
Yeah, just apart from your role as judge for ETC, were you also active as member of staff for the project, for the 9th Age project? Did you do anything for the project before?
Yes, basically I started in the 9th Age project since 2016, I think, roughly at the beginning of the project, basically. And I was designer from the beginning. Later on, I also started being in rules clarity side of things. I was also in balancing team first, which later on turned into pricing team. And yeah, and nowadays I was also main designer for Orcs and Goblins book, and as of now I also joined the executive board, so I'm trying to oversee the overall operations of the project, right? Besides only designing the game, I'm also trying to make the project better place.
Excellent. And did your time also significantly increase with your new role as part of ExB?
I'm trying to extend the day as much as I can, but all in all, it's fluctuating. Sometimes I can spend more time on the project, sometimes a bit less, but all in all, it's definitely impactful on real life.
Yeah.
Let me put it this way, right? You cannot just accept. It's not full-time job. I have also wife, kids,
Yeah.
so I cannot make it this way. But definitely it is a significant impact, right? To spend this much of time, and it obviously eats up from, for example, playing the game, right?
Yeah.
So I'm playing a bit less than I used to before I joined the project itself. But I'm still playing. I'm still participating in tournaments. I'm still painting a bit.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, I'm trying to merge all of those activities, and I hope that I'm not the least active member, but most likely I'm also not the most active one from the team.
Okay, I get that. And I've been having some people from ExB before on my channel, but you weren't part of the ExB at this point of time. Maybe can you explain us what area you're covering? What is your field of expertise as member of ExB?
Yeah, that's a bit tricky because executive board members basically changed in terms of their membership just a while ago, and I'm basically new member here. We are reformulating how we will be cooperating in general, right? So as of now, my main interest immediately before I joined executive board and now is about making things live, so basically productionizing stuff.
Okay.
So regardless of what is the content of the rules, let's say, how to make it into reality that it actually hits the player base, and also how to strategize around um, around this content, right? So I'm not here to say, for example, Ali, who is lead game designer,
Mm-hmm.
how he should be designing the game. I'm rather trying to smoothen the process into making his ideas into reality, actually hitting the players and being productionized. So
Okay.
planning, scheduling releases, something like that. That's my, as of now, main interest, but I'm also trying to expand my knowledge around about all other areas of the project itself, because
Okay.
it's vast thing.
Yeah, I get that. So if you would like to summarize that in one word, you're really part of the production.
Um, it was called something like production coordinator.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
That was the name coined like a year ago, I think, when I
Yeah.
was leaning heavily into this side of the project. Besides only designing or pricing stuff, when I tried to make this process get better, it was named as production coordinator.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
anyone who is working in some corporation or some other world job can know that those roles tend to have various names.
Yeah.
Be it delivery manager, something like that, right?
Okay.
Project manager, something around making things smoother, not necessarily just touching on the designs themselves, but rather making connection between designers and, for example, layout.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I see. Yeah, the role as coordinator, making everything smooth in the process. Okay, make a lot of sense. Maybe to introduce the topic of tonight, while I was preparing my review for the new army book for this update, I asked myself a couple of questions regarding what's the process. I've been also hearing what players were saying, like, oh, this book, what's doing the team which is managing the book and so on. And myself, it followed with a couple of questions where I was wondering, like, but actually, I don't really know how our army book concretely updated. What's the process? Who is involved? What is maybe the room to play for the teams, the individual team managing the book? What is doing the pricing team? How much? What's also the percentage of that? It was hard for me to balance. So that's why I came up with the idea of, before releasing the army book reviews, it could be interesting, it could be worth it to make a short video regarding what's the process and try to, first of all, understand for myself, but also for all the players, give them the opportunity to get a better understanding what's the step-by-step process to update an army book. I think it would help all of us to get a proper understanding who was involved, what's the process, and maybe get away from the idea it's 2-3 guys playing with a book and trying something out and they are doing a shitty job. I mean, that kind of things we've been hearing in the past. And I think it's important to highlight what are the steps and what could be the people involved. What I've been trying to do to give kind of a guideline of the step we are going to following, I've been trying to summarize, thanks to your explanation, Slivek, what are the main steps of this process, to try to make a summary, very high level, but to give everybody with this table a first understanding of the step. And what we'll be trying to do tonight is go through the steps. So don't hesitate on the live if you have question to anything, just put it on the live. I'm seeing your question and I can then forward them to Slivek. And other than that, we'll just go through that. And myself, I will be playing basically the player view, which is if it's not clear enough, if I want more detail as a player, if it's not something that is perfectly understandable for me as a player, I will just try to ask Slivek and to get more information on a particular step. So maybe let's try to start with the first one, which is actually the planning step. So the very high level. Maybe can you explain us, first of all, when do you start with this idea of planification of the yearly update? And maybe what kind of guideline do you give to anyone, actually? Is it something you give to the army book already? Is it something you give to game designer? How is it? How are the first step, actually, the concrete thinking of doing an update and rebalancing the book? I would be happy, also very interested I think to understand when does it start in comparison to when it is released.
Okay. Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me and for having this opportunity, right, of showing the process, because I think that this is really important for project to start showing a bit more of this underbelly of what's happening behind the closed doors, right?
Yeah, I
I
agree.
think that there are a lot of misunderstanding, as you said it, right? So thank you for basically coming up with this idea and for crafting with me this short 7-step guide.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that this is important to know that there are a lot of guys behind it. There are shortcuts. I will try to elaborate a bit. You mentioned this step 1, right? So executive board plus lead game designer plus senior design team. This is basically a group of game designers who are a bit more senior, who were here for a longer time and who proved that they can simply look at the game in holistic manner, and they are advisors basically to lead game designer, right? So this group, basically the effort was led mainly by lead game designer. They're trying to plan on roughly the scope, and we are here not talking about any specifics. It was rather on the level of, are we going with big changes or with small changes? If big changes, to what? To army books, to rule book, maybe to our arcane compendium. And this whole thing, this whole process is only about basically our 3rd edition as a core rules, not to season pack, right? Season pack process was separate. It was separate discussion. Here we are focusing on 3rd edition. As of now, this update is called 303. And yeah, that was the plan, right? So to decide to what degree it will be big update, to what degree it will be small update. And it was understanding of what's the executive board vision for the game as a whole, and how lead game designer can carve a path forward, taking into consideration such stuff like change fatigue, which is present in community all in all, right? Because let's be frank, right? The 3rd edition was released just a year ago, and it was through big set of changes which was happening consecutively, a lot of releases back to back basically, and it changed a lot of stuff for players. Players need some part of player base long for stability, right? So how to weight it against this part of community who wants changes?
Yeah.
Big input into this planning was a big survey, which was I think it was over August. The big survey was live, and we had massive amount of responses. It was analyzed mainly by lead game designer here, who tried to weight it and formulate something akin to a plan, right? When to touch on which parts in broad scopes, right? And then only after that we were able to sit down and to carve it into smaller pieces. For example, okay, so how are we merging this balance update and design update? Because those are separate things, and those are led by different teams, and they are using different data to begin with, right? So we had this big survey which was guiding us in terms of the direction, and I bet that more on that will be explained either way later on by Ali, lead game designer. He's crafting as of now the release notes, which will shed more light on this. But in terms of process, that was the planning, right? That was this step 1, which was the foundation which allows us to basically create those next steps. What will be happening when?
Okay, I see that. And when did this kind of discussion happen? You said August for the big survey, and after that, did you start to discuss, okay guys, now when did you start to actually send concrete guideline? Was it like September? Was it October? When did you start to really say, okay people, we are going to do that for this year? And maybe also very interesting, especially for this year, what were your guidelines actually? What did you say? What were the scope that you decided for this year?
I'll start with some excuses.
Yeah.
Lead game designer is changed relatively not that long ago,
Yeah.
right? So we are having as of now Ali instead of Eric
Yeah.
on this role. Also, senior design team is also something which is relatively fresh concept. It was, I think, kickstarted a year ago, right? Executive board was also guys who were basically filling in because past executive board had issues as of now in times of this planning, and they were in depleted numbers basically. So all in all, this caused the process to be really stormy. There were a lot of discussions, a lot of back and forth, and the process took quite a long time. It started around August when the survey was it was not yet closed, and yet we were already brainstorming how to update.
Yeah.
Right. That's when the date of December for release was being thrown around even before we had a scope. Right?
Okay.
So we had these conversations really early, and later on guidelines were obviously created, but I think that the finalization of them was only about beginning of November, really.
Okay.
So we are talking in stages, right?
Yeah.
At the beginning, the rule book was roughly done in terms of the planning stage in October, right? But later on, there was further work on Arcane Compendium, on army books. So most of those guidelines were either way fluid, and they were modified according to needs later on. So it was definitely stormy planning.
If I may, something I was wondering, what was the impact actually of having this new version 3, the fact that you needed to do some work on core rule, on Arcane Compendium, or basically I could also formulate my question in another way. If you wouldn't have to change anything from the Arcane Compendium, from the core rules, but just updating Army Book, how long would that have take, basically, in comparison? Would that been another process? For example, if you start in August, it would have been ready like October. So I would like to get a better understanding of the impact of having actually to change the rules. Is it something that took a lot of time and a lot of thinking and planning, and therefore that's why it started in August and we are getting book in December, or not?
It was obvious to us after last year that we wanted to first nail down the core rule book changes. Before we are touching army books, we wanted to finalize the rule book first. It was straightforward because of massive impact on army books later on when we are doing any changes within the core rules, right? So we wanted to have it first, and that was the main impact in terms of the scheduling, right? That's why we started first on it, and that's why it was really long, because this is fresh rulebook, right? It just had a year, and we know that last year there were a lot of conversations and a lot of changes within the short period of time, right? I'm talking design changes to core rules, right? We all remember this. Avid players do remember advantageous position, right? Which was changed multiple times with current iteration of press of ranks, which is basically conceptually this is the similar thing, but it's working differently. And it's working differently to significant degree. This is its impact on army books, on balancing, on everything is major, right? So we wanted to, we needed to basically made sure whether we are doing those big changes or not. Because if we are, then most of the balancing data is either way going to be irrelevant.
Okay, makes sense.
The impact, right?
Yeah, indeed.
So that's why it was staggered process by necessity, right? When we decided that those bigger changes are going to be handled separately, then when we knew to what degree pricing team will have relevant data. Right, so that's when this second point, PRT, so pricing team, started working on pricing, which was basically on data collected via New Recruit. It was half a year of data, basically since March till September.
Okay.
Basically between the last version of between the beginning of this most recent version
Yep.
of third edition, so it was beginning of March, till September, because that's when new season pack was
Yep.
released, and we knew that it have potential of big impact on the data, so it was like neatly tying it to our time scale, right? That we decided that okay, this half year of data will be our basis
Yep.
for pricing team considerations, and it led to data-driven, not we were using as little of gut feel as possible.
Yeah.
We were just working on this data, crunching numbers, figuring out which entry should move in which direction by how much, right? Based on data. With this small caveat, we had this guiding direction that we are going to balance all of the army books towards the one which was performing the worst. So
Okay.
you can expect more nerfs overall than buffs, at least in practice, right? Even if you
Yeah.
see more price decreases, all in all, army books should be a bit weaker in terms of pure power level.
Okay, so the idea is rebalancing by adjusting to the worth book, actually, in terms of external balance. That's the idea. Yeah.
Yes, that was the decision taken. It was not lightly, but massive discussion was happening. But that's basically this. That's the output, for example, of planning onto proceedings of pricing team, right? It was decided during planning that okay, we are going to balance towards this weakest performing army. That's why, and then pricing team was working towards this goal, executing on this, right? And it was big effort, all in all, to analyze all of the entries, all of the data. But fortunately, we had really great tool from Dark Sky, who is our workhorse in pricing team in terms of tooling side, and it was able to analyze. We were able to analyze all of the data from New Recruit in a really digestible manner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe can you give us a couple of explanation regarding the pricing team? We are speaking about how many people, and are they specific, like attributed to a book, or really looking on a bright scale, really wide, and looking at all the books and saying, okay, we know that this, for example, Infernal Dwarfs, Immortal are worst offender, so they are going to be picked. We are looking at Warriors, Forsworn, and so on. Did they have really a bright view on all the books and really having, I would say, maybe the major impact on the pricing? And then it's more adjustment from the teams? Or where they are having more specific approach to saying, okay, I'm managing Orc and Goblin, I will have impact on this book?
Really interesting question. I think that's really getting into these details. But here, I think this is important to realize for everyone that we are trying to balance both quality and speed. Right. So in this particular instance, PRT went in. So pricing team went into divide and conquer fashion. There are 8 pricing team members who were, I think, roughly 8. It's sometimes fluctuating. Who were doing this pricing exercise, and they were trying to, take some armies for themselves. So roughly it was 2 armies per person, and it was they were sort of leading the effort for particular book, but it was not doing everything at once, right? It was still this effort was reviewed by other PRT members, and also there were GDT, so game design team members helping out, and also ACS, so Army Community Support, were also helping out in those pricing efforts. So PRTs were main leading and responsible for making it happen. But in terms of contribution, it was based heavily on input from others within the project. So if your army have vocal active army community support member, they were definitely heard and they were actively working towards this balance update to happen.
Okay.
Same goes for game design team members and so on. So it was collective effort, right?
Yeah.
So it's both, again, trying to manage both speed and quality, right? If those would be only PRT members who would be doing that, we would be faster, but we would be definitely sacrificing on certain qualities, right? Which can be brought by having those multiple perspectives. For example, having those army experts, right? Taking a look and helping out in crunching those numbers into making this reality, right? So still, final say was on pricing team, and pricing team was after that having some time for final review if any price is wrong for any reason, or breaking our guidelines, internal guidelines, which I don't want to get too much into details, but there are some basic guidelines, right, in terms of pricing stuff. For example, we are not using half points and so on, right? Still, someone needs to check for those, right? And yeah, this was major uptake, right, to make it happen, and it was just beginning of our process. It then turns out for army books, right? Because for rule book, it was effort on mainly lead game designer and senior design team to make those changes happen. But then for army books, that was the beginning. We were first doing this pricing update to have this baseline for any further changes. So we were able this way to use the data which we had. We used it, made this repricing, and then design changes happened only after that.
Okay, I see. Something I've been wondering, how hard is it for you, and when I say you, it's generally speaking all the team members that are behind the update, to update army books when you know that at the same time you are going to work on stuff, and you mentioned it before, that are going to impact the balance. For example, core army core rule book, or also Arcane Compendium. How hard is it sometimes to say, okay, but we are going to modify that? For example, just a pass, we are going to make that pass better. Is it going to make that army much stronger? Should we need to anticipate and make the price of something in regard to this combo much expensive? How hard is it to do that? And is it something you're looking closely at? Also, you're really aware of that risk of modifying the balance with changes over core rules?
Yeah, first of all, we ensured that the communication is in place, right? So changes in terms of core rules was taken by the decisions were taken by senior design team and lead game designer. So as soon as those are done and dusted, we ensured that they are properly communicated to other teams, right?
Okay.
So that it's visible, so everyone is aware that some changes,
of the changes
are going to happen. Second point is that this plan again was formulated in such order because of the decision made during planning. So we went lightweight in terms of rulebook core changes. That meant that the impact should be relatively lightweight in terms of particular units being playable or not. Obviously, that's theory, right? We do know that there is going to be some impact, right? But hopefully, simply this is not going to wreck our data-driven pricing alone, right? That's why we assume that if there are going to be changes, they are either going to be negligible, or we simply don't know in which direction they're really pushing, right? I don't want to spoil much rules because we either way will be having them soon, and some of the spoiling is happening outside of this call. So I won't be using examples, but all in all, there was some awareness that shifts are going to happen.
Yeah.
When possible, we were trying to adjust on this basis. But in some cases, we were simply just saying that, we simply don't know how much we should be adjusting, right?
Yeah.
Because
you try to anticipate, and then
yes,
you always have
working
the
on gut
possibility to do a hotfix later on if something problematic is identified.
Yeah,
later.
precisely. Yeah, precisely. That's the issue, right? We could be separating those releases, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, we can just go with the rules and on later on with the pricing. The issue is that it wouldn't necessarily make us much better on the front of actually having better view, because for proper data gathering, we need a lot of time, right?
Yeah.
Also, when we are going relatively lightweight changes, then maybe we are waiting for this balance update needlessly, right?
Yeah.
Some issues will be still there, so we would be accepting the fact that we are having some issues and not addressing them because we might have new ones. Okay. Right? It's counterproductive, because we knew that for some books, internal balance was really having really tough time. We had some examples of units which were simply twisting metagame of particular army book around them, right? I'd say it up front, right? Really simple example was Deepwatch, right? Yeah. Deepwatch was a unit within Dwarven Holds, which was definitely twisting meta game of dwarves around them, right? They were having really big peak rate and so on, and they were definitely driven the cornerstone of current army performance, right? Not adjusting that would, in some way, would be definitely with the excuse of but we are changing how in the rulebook something works. Yeah. That's really poor excuse, right? Yeah. This is showing
and that wouldn't be enough to address the issue, basically.
Yeah, precisely, right? So even though some core rules are changing, we still thought that but we need to do those adjustments either way. Yeah. Right? Because some of them are blatantly obvious. Okay. Some of them, those tiny details we might get wrong, but those big offenders towards the internal balance of the books, we definitely can hit.
Yeah, indeed. Maybe a last point that would interest me regarding the step 2 here, regarding the pricing, generally speaking, we also will observe, because we are starting to publish the review of Army Book tomorrow, but there are some small, not too heavily, design changes. What were, in this regard, the guideline that you gave to? Is it something you gave to the pricing team? Is it something? Who decided that? Basically, that actually the terms, basically the idea of not changing too much the design is the main goal, and not just playing with the price. Is it something you put a limit on? Is it something then the ACS requested? How was that defined? I think that would be interesting as well.
So that's this is heavily discussed point internally, right? Because we did this approach of first this data-driven update, right? And that meant by necessity that this update on points was done with the assumption that nothing in terms of rules changes. Yeah. And that was definitely difficult pill to swallow, but I think that it was accepted by big majority of project members that yes, we are going to for the time of pricing, forget that we want to change the designs as well. Yeah. We will just reprice everything what we think needs reprice, even those entries which we will later on request to be redesigned. Reason simple. If we are not repricing something which is totally unplayable, we are basically making this entry unplayable for longer.
For another year, at least,
We do not know whether this will get sufficient redesign or not. Yeah. We simply do not know it. And even if some entries end up redesigned, we will just reprice them later.
Yeah.
Either way, because for every redesign, we either way are looking into it, whether price should be changing or not. Because let's face it, sometimes unit is another pair of eyes, and when we are changing the design of particular unit, you cannot just assume that you will hit the power level to be exactly in the same place,
Yeah.
right? So we either way need to look at it into the pricing later on. So it was really useful to have this data-driven update, I feel, because it allowed us to, touch all of those entries which either way won't get redesigned. Because we were fully expecting that for all of the army books, we will be redesigning some entries, but not even close to majority of them.
Yeah.
Right. So we knew that this is the simplest way how we can simply select and end up with better internal balance and better potentially external balance as well.
Yeah.
And only after that have a run at redesigning entries, which are, let's face it, we should be redesigning not stuff which is overly played or not played at all, but we should be redesigning towards the feels, right? Whether the entry feels right.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the power level simply can be curbed and can be affected by the pricing itself, right? And we can change the offensive entries by just tweaking pricing. We do not need to always change the designs.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have some entries which are well balanced in terms of play rate, but they still feel wrong in terms of design.
Yeah.
We still want to redesign them, right? So I hope majority of the guys within the project are separating those two issues, right?
Yeah.
Balance issues and design issues. That's why we have separate teams, pricing team and game design team, right? Because we do realize, and also different ways of gathering feedback, right? Because we are having this data collected on new recruit, which is guiding our decisions in terms of balance, but in terms of fields, it tells us really little. It tells something about the play rates, right? But still, what we would like to hear is rather the feedback from the players on how particular entries should feel, or why they are bad.
Yeah.
What are the problems which we should be addressing? Some of that we gathered through big survey, but also we had separate run of collecting feedback about particular designs, and this is this point, step number 3.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I've been personally a bit more involved with, for example, the Infernal Dwarfs book, where I have been contacted by ACS, and I was able to get a bit more insight about the work they do. And I think it's quite interesting, and some people might not understand fully what they do, but I was really impressed by the amount of suggestion they are making, the amount of feedback they are collecting. I mean, for example, for ID, they gathered a document with plenty of comments, inputs, proposition as well. They not only come with issue, but they also come with proposition. Obviously, not all of them are well balanced. They might sometimes ask too much, sometimes maybe not enough. But I like the idea of them doing kind of brainstorming based also on players. They also contact particular player who are playing on a high level. When I mean high level, it's at ETC level with good performance. The army book, they also try to have those army specialists involved to get their feeling. And I felt really interesting, because they are doing kind of a brainstorming job to then send it back to the design team and pricing team, if I understand correctly. And after that, those guys will be reviewing that and taking that into account. And I would assume, but I'm happy to hear you about that some of the design that were made by the design team, so on step 4, could be based on suggestion from those ACS.
100% yes.
Okay,
because basically the input towards as I mentioned, input towards pricing was in essence the data, but also, as I mentioned, the ACS were working extensively here. They were suggesting solutions towards the pricing step even, right? And after that, they were still gathering feedback and collaborating a lot in the design stage for army books. It was, you know, nothing in the project is really being done by one person. It's always some sort of a team who is working on it, and and that's true for army book design changes as well. We are having those game design team, and they are supposed to look at this in really objective way, in a way which is connecting this particular army to all of the armies. They are trying to steer the army into particular direction. Sometimes they are trying to make the army coherent and streamlined with the general solutions. At the same time, those game design teams, even though they have certain expertise in their armies, they are definitely looking into the feedback which is given from ACS. That's even main input. And for this particular update, for example, they were ACS were asked for their top 10 issues, and those were the items which were then mainly discussed. It was really rare that game design team was bringing up something outside of the issues brought by ACS.
Yeah.
It was the main feed into the then changes. Now, in terms of solutions, obviously, this is a point of conflict, obviously.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, even if we have only game design team, everyone is having their own opinion.
Yeah.
If we are adding ACS, it's simply another set of new opinions, right? Same goes for any person. So it's just another person to be added into the design discussion. This is going to be difficult, right?
Yeah.
So not necessarily we do welcome having too many guys working on particular designs, because by necessity this is subjective manner, like a lot, right? Still, in terms of at least providing problems, we welcome everyone. That's why we were collecting feedback from various channels. ACS, we're trying to reach into as many players as possible, because we want to gather a lot of data, a lot of feedback, and then in terms of actually making some decisions on it, this is going to be nasty, right? Actually cutting those ideas into shape, right? Cutting those solutions into shape. This is nasty thing, and simply not everyone can simply have a basically stomach to do it, right? Because everyone likes their own ideas. Sacrificing their own ideas in favor of supporting someone else's idea is always difficult, right?
Sure.
And sometimes there are some objective reasons why it shouldn't be done this particular way, because, for example, backgrounds say so, or some guidelines say so, or simply lead game designer says so, right? There are a lot of reasons why ideas get killed.
Okay.
Sometimes, so not necessarily everyone is involved in such discussions to full degree, and this is by design, because we don't want to scare people off.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Because someone can be great as ACS, but not necessarily would be thriving as a designer.
Yeah.
Because those are simply separate skill sets.
Yeah,
and
sure.
We had a lot of guys which were trying to do great in the project, but simply later on said that it's simply not for them.
Yeah.
And that's fine, right? That's why we are having some other guys there, but still, definitely, this feedback collected by ACS was 100% the main point of discussion, and it was the main source of changes within all of the army books. So going forward, if you see any ACS asking you for any opinion, tell them full truth. What is your pain with the army? Not necessarily solutions, because solutions will die either way.
Sure.
But problems will be definitely hurt.
Yeah, I think it's very important you are making here. It's a very important point for the players to understand. Your feedback will be heard, and I think that's very important, because ACS are following the forums. So if you see an issue, if you have a problem also with the feeling of unit, the design, the way it works, just raise it there. It will be heard, and if multiple players have the same feeling, surely that will be gathered, and that will somehow go high into the update process. So I think that's a strength from the project, that everybody can be heard and everybody has the way to give feedback.
It obviously have a lot of caveats, right? For example, if you are saying that you hate particular element, it doesn't mean that others are hating it as well, right? So that's the value of gathering these numbers of feedback points, right? Sometimes you will be hating something, but others are loving it, but simply are less vocal about it. You don't know about it even, but then it turns out that simply your issue is not even making top 10 of the most frequently mentioned issues, right? It can happen, but still, if you're not voicing it, you're not giving this issue a chance to be even addressed, right? So definitely do complain on the forum. It's fine, but also, with all due respect,
make it in a constructive way.
that you're not the sole player of the army. Because there are various other guys, and sometimes you are hating some unit, but others are using it and are loving it, right? So it's always easier to complain about something, right? So it's much easier to write that you hate something rather than write that you love something.
Indeed.
So you definitely will be hurt, but whether this will be addressed is another thing. Because again, we were trying to also make this update relatively lightweight in terms of truly address the most pressing issues, the issues which are the most natural ones that we know that those are indeed issues. Stuff which for example, we felt that we might be simply fixing it with points. Sometimes you are saying that something is unplayable, and when it gets simply price decrease, it might simply become playable. So instead, maybe say stuff like, this entry have too low eliteness, right? It's not doing enough on the table. If you are just lowering the price, it will still do not enough, in my opinion. It will be playable then, but it won't have this sufficient impact on the table, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are different things. Sometimes we are hearing that particular entries are unplayable, but it doesn't mean buff them with redesign. It can mean decrease their price. Those are two different things, and sometimes we are having either of them, right? Because some people love the design but simply would love points to be decreased, and some others are hating the design and simply they don't care about points, they simply don't like it.
So, that's two different things indeed.
Yes, and it's often mixed up, right? Even now, despite the fact that the project exists for over 10 years, despite the fact that we are gathering on forum and gathering ideas for years and years, it's still being mixed up, and that's natural. That's why being ACS, it's not that easy job as it might look like, because they are between hammer and anvil, basically, right? They are trying to make this communication work happen. At the same time, on the one hand side, they're having community which is always displeased and always are throwing mixed signals. And on the other hand, they are having project guys who are telling them no. Right?
It can be frustrating, like indeed.
Yes, it looks like that. It's not like that, because as we can see in the sneak peeks, in the spoilers, the changes are happening, and virtually 100% of them are stemming in a way from ACS feedback. So what you see is basically the product of the community complaining about some items, right?
Indeed.
But when you are raising like twice as many issues, and you're reading this no, you get frustrated. That's natural, right? But at the same time, they are this really. The input of ACS was really driving this part of redesigns for this particular update, definitely.
Very interesting. I would like to bounce back on two questions that we have on the chat. The first one was a player asking why the power level of Army book was brought down. I think that this has been addressed by you. Basically, you said that the idea was to base the change, the update on the worst Army book, to make that should be basically the benchmark for updating the other book. My question to follow on that would be, was the idea to like limit the bloating of model on the table, like to limit the number of model from further increasing potentially with the update? Was the idea behind that? Or what was basically the...
Yeah, you're answering my questions.
Okay.
in short,
Yeah.
well, this is a bit controversial point, right? Because some guys obviously disagree with this feedback
Yeah.
in the first place,
Yeah.
right? Some are saying that yeah, we are not seeing model bloat. Some are saying that we are creating model bloat by, for example, making rank and file models, rank and file units, infantry units more playable, right? We are making this model bloat happen in the first place. Yes, and basically it was discussed in depth, and it's not necessarily only about model bloat. It's about general power level of items on the battlefield, right? Because having, I feel like this is worth like another big call.
Yeah, it did.
Really, because this is really peculiar point, because this discussion was happening even at the beginning of second edition.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was an issue. That's why we went from
good number of models.
Yeah, we went for
right?
4,500 to 4,000, for example.
Yes, and it was happening in the second edition time, right? But even at the beginning of second edition, if you remember, you might not, the change was initially in first edition we were using points like 2,500.
Yeah, indeed, yeah.
Instead of going into 5,000 in second edition, we went specifically immediately into 4,500.
True. Yeah.
So this lowering of points was happening even at the very beginning phase of the second edition, and later on it was further reduced into 4K being the standard game size, right? So as of now we are still using this for 4K. So basically this is really long ongoing conversation whether we are having really right power level on the battlefield, and I don't feel like I can satisfy anyone watching it, right? Because it's, as I said, controversial point, right? Whether we should be lowering, whether we should be giving into the power creep, because why not? This is really a tough point, right? And definitely this conversation is ongoing basically since the project started, since the very first ABCs, where all they were trying to do at the very beginning of the project, I'm saying, adding more features into their army books. It was expected, but also it was eye opener for everyone inside the project that this is going to happen on and on for years to come, that we will be adding more power, more eliteness, more stuff into the army books rather than reducing these numbers. So we need to simply mitigate it in some way going forward. So as you can hear, I'm here for a really long time in the project. But yes, basically this is controversial point, definitely. So some of you will hate it, but please be mindful that this is towards avoiding the situation which maybe won't be happening this year, maybe wouldn't be happening in 5 years, but at certain stage, if you have an issues in making your deployment, then maybe we are hitting model bloat, right? So I think that all in all, this is issue definitely important for the project longevity. This is worth tackling. why this particular update was done this way, it was the best opportunity to try to tackle it in the least impactful way for everyone. For example, instead of changing suddenly the game size from 4K into 3K, right? Instead of doing something abruptly like that, we just during regular rebalancing, instead of
you increase a bit the points
towards the towards the average to army, we rebalance towards the bottom army. That's it. So all in all, it's the entries which were supposed to be hit by some price change were either way hit by those price changes. Maybe some different entries got hit, but all in all, it should be indistinguishable in terms of player experience at least, right? Because in terms of experience, pricing happened, right? Whether this is towards the average or towards the bottom shouldn't really change this experience, because you are either way having those new prices. You are either way creating new lists. Now, hopefully, those lists will have on average a bit less of a power level. That's it. So this is a way how to make it into as little impact into player lives without making this issue too obvious to everyone that we are fighting model bloat, because it's again controversial point, right?
And I see what you mean.
Lot of points of guys who are saying that but you guys are creating model bloat. They're correct by making the game less about monsters but more about rank and file. We are definitely creating model bloat, right? So,
Indeed,
yeah.
You're part of the problem. No, but I think it's an interesting discussion, and I think at least it can explain why the guideline of this year is going towards the least powerful army book. Was basically the idea, the benchmark for this year. I think it's interesting for the player to help them understand what's coming in terms of change for the army book. I would like to follow up on a second question, and maybe also try to go a bit away from the question to a more broader point, because the question was, Warrior of the Dark God has dominated the ladder for a very long time. How did you manage to balance it? I think it's an interesting question, but that being said, if you look straight at the data, they are not that much dominating actually in terms of pure data. They are not like average 12 point and the rest of the army are 10.5. If you look actually at the average on data, it's quite okay. And what would also interest me would be actually how do you sometime, because you said it's heavily based on data, how do you sometimes move away from the data to say, okay, maybe, for example, War of the Dark God could be like 10.5. It's like top tier, but nothing too horrendous, actually. How do you move away from that and say, but guys, wait a second. Actually, if you look at the top 5 ETC team this year, all of them pick this army, so it's maybe overpowered. Look at this list, for example. Look at this entry. And maybe we move a bit away from the data to say, okay, actually, they could be more than top tier. They could be top of the ladder, and we should actually do more changes, do a bit more nerfs in terms of points to actually put them more average. How do you move away from that? I think that would be also interesting to understand.
Okay, those are like 2 points.
Yeah,
right?
indeed.
First of all, whether the Warriors of the Dark Gods are hit sufficiently. And the most honest answer is basically we don't know, right? This is to a degree, and for at least 2 reasons. First of all, we can see outright that using this, for example, new data from the beginning of season 2, season pack 2 was released. Since this point, we can see that as of now, using this admittedly smaller data set, we see different ranking. Right? And this is already telling us something that, we were using, obviously, data from the past. After that, some design changes happened, in this case, season pack 2, and they were not accounted for in this pricing update, right? So, admittedly, yes, we might be totally off, right? Because maybe this season pack was big enough impact
Yeah, it
on
impacts the
the
balance. Yeah.
on the external
Yeah,
balance
indeed.
of armies that we shouldn't, right? Still, important factor here to not ignore is that the ranking which we are looking at is only talking about the external balance between armies.
Yeah.
What we are looking into in this half year of March to September, it also says about the internal balance of units, right? And that was the major effort of ours was internally balancing the books.
Yeah.
Because externally, in terms of how much we should be nerfing overall Warriors of the Dark Gods compared to Vermin Swarms or to Ogre Khans or and so on, we simply don't know. And if you have some neat idea how to calculate it, yeah, contact us. Because that was gut feel. To what degree? What's that? As of now, if you are taking the average result of an army for let's say for a year, right? We are gathering data for a year. We are having Warriors of the Dark Gods with, I don't know, let's use 12, right, as your number, 12 on average.
Yeah.
And we are having bottom army, let's say Ogre Khans, and let's say 8 points on average. How much we should be changing their lists in terms to make them even, to make them at average of 10, right? How much? It's difficult question.
Indeed.
And we simply don't know, because if you are at the same time trying to fix the internal and external balance, so totally new lists can emerge, right? And maybe those lists simply have different matchups. Simple as that. So just by fixing internal balance, we are by necessity affecting the external balance itself.
Clearly.
So even if someone could come up with some neat formula by how many points we should be tweaking particular armies, right? By solely fixing their internal balancing, we will be wrecking this formula either way. So it might be might be that we overshoot, or might be that we are short of making the sufficient impact. We don't know. We are just checking, and basically only data will tell us whether, to what degree, for example, the season pack was the major turning point, or maybe this pricing update will actually fix stuff. And we do know that internally it will fix stuff. We don't know about the externally. This and frankly, we won't know until
a couple of months of data again.
Yes.
Even
then, we simply will know that, okay, as of now, our works this way. But whether our actions in the past were in wrong direction, we simply won't know.
You don't know, because it could be just a player that didn't figure out something.
Precisely. And there are simply other levers at work, right? This is season pack, those are core rules.
There are so many factors actually.
Those are redesigns, and redesigns that unfortunately cannot be simply priced using data. So even if our process of pricing on the basis of this data collected through new recruit would be perfect, and let's put it simply, it wasn't perfect, right? Because we are just human, we are fallible. Even if it would be perfect, the results wouldn't be, right? Because of those other factors. So it most likely won't be perfect balance, and whether Warriors of the Dark Gods were hit sufficiently or not, we simply won't know. Because even if they become totally balanced, perfectly balanced on 10-point average, it might have been thankfully to our pricing, or it might be just coincidental.
Yeah, indeed. I see what you mean. And regarding the second part of my question, maybe to what extent do you move away from the data to basically get your own judgment about how hard an army should be hit, or how big an army should be buffed?
Yeah, so for this particular update, in the past it was different. for this particular update, we went with the solely looking into new recruit data.
Yeah.
So ETC was not using bigger weight, for example, in terms of it impacts on the results. Same for WTC or any other tournament. All tournaments were used equal, so every game by any player was having same weight. Whether this is best way, we simply don't know, but this is we were using some assumptions. For example, the one assumption which is used for years in project is that all armies should be on average having roughly similar skill set inside them.
Yeah.
So if we are having top players, they should be outweighed by those non-top players for all of the armies, roughly on same level. Which is, we know that this is just an assumption which is most likely incorrect, but simply the issue is that we have far too little data to actually figure out how much incorrect this is.
Yeah.
So that's why we went with simply the biggest data set which we could find, which is, we know that is reliable, which is simply tournament results from half a year of stable data set, stable rule set. It was I think 70 tournaments in the data set and thousands of games. Frankly, this is not the biggest which we had in the history of 9th Age, but we deemed it sufficient to simply crunch some numbers, right? And obviously this is, in terms of at least some of the biggest offenders in terms of internal balance, it's definitely sufficient. Whether it's sufficient for those nitty-gritty details, yeah, most likely not.
Yeah.
But looking into cutting our data set just because, yeah, we are having those assumptions that maybe those top players are knowing more about the game, wouldn't really be helping us, because we are creating game not only for those top players. We want to have a game which is also played by those new players, right? So just getting rid of some data set because maybe for top tier play we would have at the end of the day a bit better results, a bit more balance. It's like we would definitely sacrifice something, right? We would definitely sacrifice volume of the data, but maybe, just maybe, we would make the experience overall worse for those weaker players, maybe. Right, so those are stuff which we simply don't want to meddle with. This update, at least, we went with simply let's take as many data as we can.
Yeah. Okay, very interesting. And yeah, I think that being said, also it would be hard to cut through the data in a good way, because even top player, you could have sometimes an unlikely event that moved the data in another direction due to unexpected event in the game. So I think also with that, the way the game works, there is still a random factor that could change data. So it's not just only calculation. It's a game also about what could happen, more or less likely, could change the actual data. So I think the number of the data, the volume of the data gathered is very important in that way, because that could limit the influence of extreme outcome, statically speaking.
Yes, and again, I think that this is a topic which could have its own podcast.
Yeah, indeed.
Because this is a bit deeper even than what you're as of now saying. That simply having more data can simply save us from random stuff which is happening. Let's face it, this is game of dice, because. For example, we are having those assumptions which I mentioned, right? That skill level of players is roughly equally distributed, which we know that it's simply most likely not correct, and we don't know to what degree. What's worse is that we do know that players do tend to switch armies, for example. So even if we would be keeping track of it, it could change in time.
It's impossible.
Right?
It's impossible.
For example, some top players can be simply changing armies.
Yeah, indeed, and they do it. Yeah.
What's more is that some players are simply having drastically different impact on the data set by the virtue of simply playing many games. And we are so basically, if you as of now, if you are playing more games, you have more say over the balance of the game.
Yeah, indeed.
Which is questionable. Do you agree? Right? Basically, we are not counting players but games.
Yeah.
So if you are playing a lot of games, you are having much more say over the balance of the game, right? So basically, this is worth another podcast.
Yeah, indeed.
How to balance war games,
indeed,
right? Because I have some experience from game industry overall, and I know that this is already difficult in games where they are having much more data. I'm saying orders of magnitude more data.
Yeah.
For example, when you're balancing some video games which are online, which are multiplayer online games like MOBA games or others, they're dealing with massive amounts of data. So supposedly statistical significance of their findings would be a factor, right?
Indeed.
And yet, even though they're spending lots of money on this, they're really trying to do full science on those data, they are still known for being off.
Yeah.
There are stuff which are simply broken. There is this meta game thingy still,
there are so
even
many factors.
Even in those big players in the industry, right? So I don't think that by, for example, having our data set like 10 times bigger, we could be going much better.
Okay.
We would be better, but it wouldn't be like
that impactful.
Really quality of life. Yes. There would be still meta games, because this is balancing any game is still operating in the realm of perception.
Yeah, indeed.
Because it's not about the absolute power, right, of particular unit. The unit is worth as much as players assess it it's worth it. It's not about this. There's no magical formula which is saying that absolute power of this unit is this much. No, it's worth as much as players are willing to pay points for this unit. It's all within the perception. That's same like with most economy models, right? That as soon as you are trying to get rid of this pure rational approach, you are getting closer to the truth, right? You need to simply get rid of this assumption that people are 100% reasonable, because let's face it, someone just painted this awesome dragon, and they will play it even if it's even if yes, precisely. Even if for this player, this is worst option, right? Because they are really doing well on tournaments. We have all the data. Let's imagine they're doing great using, for example, those knights, right? They are doing great results, but still somehow for this particular next event, they took dragon, right? Why? It's totally unreasonable looking at the data alone, but they just painted it.
Yeah.
So why not? Let's take a dragon. And this is going to wreck all of the models which we can simply create, and this is reality. There's no workaround. Our balancing processes will be fallible no matter what we do.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
We need to simply live with that and simply do as best as we could. It's all smoke and shadows.
Very interesting. And I think what you just pointed out is really true. I think all of us as player, sometimes you just feel better playing some units and you feel like, I don't know how to use this unit. And this happens to everybody. So I think, also just that could be the explanation why I pick this unit instead of the other one. So it's a very complex topic. Maybe I will follow up with another question. It's more regarding the details of internal balance changes. What I've been reading, and you can probably complete that or correct that if needed, is the main guideline that has been given for the teams for the new update was basically try to nerf basically the star list, the top list, the worst offender. So try to pick the really problematic unit of the army book to try to increase them in point or change the design in the worst case if you cannot really solve it with point, but basically change the design. And what would be also the guideline then to what extent could they basically decrease some price in compensation for that nerf? That would be also interesting.
Okay.
So a bit more about internal balance, the way it's done.
Yeah, so you really want to dive deep into this, right?
Not too deep. I don't know. You can answer to that question. Yeah, obviously I'm going into very specific, but maybe more or less high level. What were the guidelines? How do that work more or less?
Okay, so this year, right? Let's talk specifically because it's not about what are our appetites going forward or how we were doing it in the past, right? This year specifically, what we are doing is we were using extensively this so-called average list approach. So we are looking into how big is the play rate of particular units.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, if play rate of particular unit is really high, then nerfing it by some amount is going to basically hit the army more than nerfing by same amount unit which is having low play rate.
Yeah.
Because it's affecting less lists, right?
Yeah.
Due to the fact that play rate that's what it works, right? So in short, this is this average lists approach, and it was crafted long time ago, right? This overall approach, right? In specific, in terms of details, this is still being honed and so on. And the approach is sound, right? It makes sense on the face value. The devil lies in the details. For example, some entries are expected to be played more.
Yeah.
For example, due to the fact that they are, for example, from core, so they are in the smaller subset of units which must be taken, and maybe they are having rarity of regular, right? So you can have even 8 of them in a list of standard size of 4K points. So they are expected to be filled, right? And if you are having issues, cases of some other categories, it's getting even more complicated. For example, I think that the most stark example is Orcs and Goblins, because of this 3 lists in one concept of having those Dharma lists, tribe leader lists, and mixed ones, right? So basically mono Goblins, mono Orcs, and mixed. And this is really stark because, for example, in the mono Goblin lists, if we are assuming that players wouldn't be taking Orc units in core, which is an assumption, but let's play with it, we are talking only about 2 entries which are in core, and this is basically the record, right? Because other than that, we are having, for example, Dwarven Halls who are having 3 units in core, and when we are looking into mixed units, mixed armies of Orcs and Goblins, we are jumping into 6 units in core, right? So in all of those cases, the expected play rates for units are going to be different by necessity, right? Yeah. Because if you are
there are different use cases.
Because if you are just going to field cheap units, and you need to fill in the quota of core, right? Yeah, you are expected to field multiples of them, right? Whereas, for example, if you are having Warriors of the Dark Gods, where units in overall can be a bit more pricey because they are a bit more elite, and you are having lower mandatory core, right? Then suddenly you are expected to see a bit less, for example, of warriors on foot, right? And so it's really tricky to just straight up use particular play rate and just apply your rule of thumb, because the devil lies in the details. This is not as easy to do, right? So this is the trickiness of internal balance. That's why it demanded certain focus of dedicated PRT members, pricing team members, to focus on particular army, sit down to it, crunch those numbers, figure out, looking into army book heavily, not only the numbers, but what is kind of the expected play rate of particular units,
Yeah.
how much we are differing, and then figure out, okay, should we apply some point changes in this entry or maybe this other one entry, right? Because we cannot help everyone, and if we are moving multiple levers, we are just tweaking with the whole system,
Yeah.
right? So the more changes we do, the less likely
Yeah.
are we to be hitting the ballpark, right?
Yeah,
Because
it's
if we
harder
are
to predict.
yeah, because if we are having the full army and we have one entry which is visibly obviously overplayed, and we are just fixing this entry by lowering we are hoping to lower its play rate, so let's increase the points. Okay, it should work. We are almost like 100% that we're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
But if we at the same time are touching in similar way 10 other entries in different ways,
Yeah.
then we are definitely going to affect play styles,
Yeah.
right? We are going to potentially open up new options totally for playing the army. We are going to potentially kill a play style altogether, right? So, and we don't know about it, right? We are just trying to crunch numbers. We are just applying those changes, and later on we are trying to figure out, okay, what new options are created. That's why we are having this team. Not only this PR team member, but also ACS, GDT are looking into it in form of a task team almost, right? And trying to figure out, okay, are we going in the right direction even, right? Are we fixing, shouldn't we fix also those entries, or maybe this is too much? Maybe those are too many levers, right? Good example, and I think that this one will resonate with everyone, is about enchantments, right? You can have you can lower particular enchantment, weapon enchant. You can lower a particular army armor.
Yeah.
You can lower a particular arcane item, and all of those changes in vacuum make sense. But all in all together, they are opening totally new build.
Indeed. Yeah.
For a character, right? And this new build might be the new thing, right? Which will be all over the place on the next ETC, and we don't know about it. We cannot really predict all of those builds, right? Some of them we can, and we are catching and we're trying to figure out what are the most broken ways which we can utilize those new prices, those new designs, and so on. But frankly speaking, the more eyes, the better. So we will only figure this out after the release.
Okay, I get that. Very interesting.
I hope that this is answering the question, because I'm not entirely sure.
At least for me, it is. It helps to understand the process. I'm seeing that we have been already talking for a long time, and I think it's a very interesting topic, but also could be hard to follow maybe after a long time. So I will try to shortly to come to an end in a couple of minutes. But I think towards the step that you can see on the table, there isn't that much to add regarding the final steps. So I would like more to go towards the direction of what can we expect after the update. First of all, what could we expect for this year update? Meaning, is it just like we had previous year, like short hotfix of the very problematic things that you figure out, but basically the final version of the book, of the army book, will stay close to what will be released shortly before Christmas? That would be my first question. And yeah, we'll ask the second one afterwards. Maybe you can answer that one first.
Okay. The most honest answer is that we don't know, right? What we know is that we want to read this as when the books will be ready.
Yeah.
That's simple, right? As of now, as you can see in this AB update process, right? As of now, we are after these changes which are based heavily on ACS feedback. RCT, so rules clarity team, was working alongside doing this final check. Lead game designer approved stuff. As of now, we are at this stage that everything is kind of approved. And basically, since roughly beginning of December, layout, rules clarity team, translations, community engagement are having their field
Yeah.
day. They are doing the spoilers and so on. And as of now, all those designers are also trying to, for example, proofread. But also we are having other releases which are going along the way,
Yeah.
kinda in parallel. For example, we are having some stuff in the brewing, all in all,
Yeah.
right? Let me not spoil too much, but some guys in the project are as of now working actively towards redesigning or pricing or some stuff, right? Even though as of now for this update of 3.03 they are not, because layout is doing their work,
Yeah.
their magic, right? They are trying to prepare the release. In the meantime, we are trying to strategize, obviously, and to define when and what is happening later on.
Yeah.
So towards basically 2026.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, we are having new executive board, which is relatively fresh in their roles, but they are having, we are having our own opinion on how to make stuff forward. Lead game designer is also having his own opinion about making stuff forward. We are trying to create an action plan. We're literally days we are talking about, right?
Okay.
That some actions were crafted towards the future releases after this one hits.
Yeah.
We definitely do want to listen in. That's a given. We want to listen to the feedback on this particular release,
Yeah.
right? Because let's face it, we won't know for sure where we missed, where we hit, without some honest feedback from the players. For that, we unfortunately know that we need to wait significantly, because some initial reactions will be definitely emotional,
Yeah.
but not necessarily factual.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
We do want
That
to
always
wait
happen.
we do want to wait for those tournaments to happen, first of all,
Mhm.
right? So after this initial wave of reactions, be it positive or negative, we do need to wait
Yeah.
a bit
To get data. Yeah.
to brace ourselves in the data,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We need to simply
That
wait
makes
for
sense.
it, wait for those big tournaments which are happening in January. We already know about some of them
Mhm.
happening. Then February, we don't know when. At a certain point, it might turn out that simply the amount of feedback about some changes will be tipping the scale.
Yeah.
We are not as of now planning for anything big to be happening between now and ETC.
Okay.
But it might turn out that simply circumstances will force us to,
Yeah.
to
Could
take
be
some
necessary.
actions. But this I feel like I have the clearance to say that we are not planning on anything big in terms of the changes to the core rules, to the army books between this release of 3.03 and ETC.
Okay.
We are not planning on.
Yeah.
But again, circumstances, right?
Yeah.
It might be that we will be forced to
do it.
take certain actions. We are hoping that those would be either none or really small nudges towards the best experience for the players, right? If it means curbing certain combinations which we haven't thought of, that would be it, right? But we are not planning on having like another round of redesigns for all of the books, for example, because we do realize that through bigger changes, we are either way kind of planning. It's basically stemming from this step one here, right?
Yep.
Of on the board, executive board, lead game designers, senior designers analyzed the big survey. They tried to do the planning, and one of the ideas was that, yeah, we are going to go relatively lightweight in this core rules update. We are opening ourselves a window for bigger change in third edition and hopefully final, we'll see. After we are gathering more, after we are first of all fixing those blatant internal balance issues, which we are doing this update, hopefully, we are going to potentially change some bigger stuff after etc.
Okay.
But before that, let's hope that nothing big happens. We are not seeing anything
Yeah.
blatantly
Problematic.
weird, right? And that let's hope that in this in this update we work toward making the balance and the player experience better rather than worse.
Okay. You anticipate already my last question,
that's the
which
most diplomatic
which would be basically what's your expectation for next year and the future plans. So I think you already covered that, but maybe to be very concrete, I would like to ask you as a last question, what would be your expectation or your willingness for the process of yearly update next year? Would it be very focused on army book and short, like taking 2 months and being much quicker than this year, due to the fact that you shouldn't have, if everything works like according to plan, you shouldn't have to tweak or change heavily compendium, arcane compendium, core rulebook and so on? Would that be the expectation, and potentially the idea of also releasing the yearly update not that long after etc? Is it something that you have in mind and that you are considering?
Okay, personally, I'm really trying to move the project into separating the thinking about releases and separating the thinking about what we are working on.
Okay.
Those are two different dates in my mind, right? For example, if we want to release something immediately after etc, it should mean for us as a project that we should be working on it long before etc happens, right? To me, this is kind of natural, right? That external dates mean something totally different than internal dates. The fact that we are working towards something doesn't mean that we are going to release it in the next week, right? And this is not that obvious for some guys within the project because we are still in this learning curve, right? That's the nature of any volunteer project, right? Some people get burned out and so on. We are having a lot of guys changing their roles, some new guys, some old guys.
Yeah, that's a challenge.
Yeah, and in all of that, we need to simply make sure, and that's one of my, let's say, pet peeves. We need to make sure that people are aware that whatever action they are making when, for example, ACS are pushing forward towards this particular change, that it's not going to impact only them or increase workload only for game design, but for everyone around.
Yeah.
It's going to increase impact on lead game designer, on senior designers, on pricing team, on layout, on translation, on rules clarity, on everyone around, right? So any change which we are creating is by necessity having a really long headway, right? So that's one of the things which I want to simply make the project really be aware of, right? That whatever we are doing, for example, as you mentioned, those yearly updates, if we want them to be happening at certain date, we need to simply commit towards starting working on them way earlier than we are used to it, right? Again, currently the work towards this particular release, which is happening in December, started in terms of the planning, the discussions on roughly around August, right? This is a lot of the headway, and some of that is unavoidable. It's not that we can simply cut it in half without loss of quality, right? We are already using divide and conquer pattern where we can, but also there is this tendency in the project, and it's not unfounded, this tendency that if we are slapping a bit more guys into a particular task team, the results will be a little bit better in terms of quality, right? Because let's face it, if we're having just one person updating a book, it will be faster.
Yeah.
But they will likely miss something.
Yeah.
And if we are trying to align multiple multiple volunteers into one task team who are together to update the book, it's going to take longer time.
Yeah.
But we are playing with this likelihood that, but they will spot issues more easily together.
Yeah, makes
right?
sense.
So some of this time, in principle, could be cut. Right? We could be releasing faster, definitely. This is really easy, right? If the whole project would be just done in terms of design wise by one person, it will be massively. It will be blighting fast. Issue is that will this person be truly trusted, and after initial release, when a lot of mistakes will be happening, will this person survive this the fallout, right?
Yeah.
As of now, we are defending ourselves because there's a lot of us here, so we can share blame, basically. And it's kind of unavoidable to have this safety net to a degree. So we will be working proceedings on items for weeks at a time, unfortunately, because otherwise, no one here is getting paid for that.
I see what you mean.
We need to have at least this safety net of shared blame, because otherwise, if it would be one person and they would be facing this fallout at the forum later on, immediately after release, because they will inevitably make someone angry, and most likely lots of guys angry. It's simply too much of a burden, I guess, to ask, and we would be having one-time lead game designers, right?
Then there would be burnout, and then you need to change again.
And we want to have experienced guys at this tier.
It's not viable to change too often the people. It's not helpful.
Precisely, right? So yes, looking from the outside, yes, obviously project could be going faster. It's easy to say. Obviously, we could be going faster. Would it be better? Most likely not, and most likely it wouldn't be sustainable pace then. So that's why some of the updates need to take time, and what I'm personally trying to do is to simply make those timelines a bit more realistic in terms of how much time we are actually going to spend on items, right? And hopefully from those conversations, from currently happening planning in terms of the next steps of third edition, I hope that soon we will be able to share some schedules, some plan, some roadmap for the future releases. But I don't want to say that we have any date in mind in terms of, for example, regular balance updates, right? I have some ideas how we could be going with that.
But it's hard to commit to anything now. There are too many uncertainties.
And I'm not the sole guy here, right?
Indeed.
If I would be if I would be alone in the executive board, it would be, similarly speaking, project would be in dire straits, right? Because what if something happens and I have to attend to sick child or something like that for extended period of time? There needs to be some redundancy within the project, right? So I need to also align in my thinking of the future releases
with other people.
With others.
Sure.
So it's not my decision, even though I am as of now in executive board, so supposedly one of the highest echelons of the project. I still very much feel like not much have changed in terms of my decision making power, because there are other guys who are also need to be aligned with, and I don't want to simply step on them and make up my own decisions, because we are a team here, and one of our goals for this particular change in terms of executive board was definitely trying to make the project a better place to work in, to spend time in. We want to ensure that we are...
To make it all enjoyable for the people and avoid them to burn out and leave the project.
Avoiding burnout.
That's key.
Yes, avoiding burnout was one of the phrases used quite a lot in the most recent executive board meetings. Right? We want to avoid this burnout, and we want to also work towards making these experiences the best for the players.
Makes sense.
We are trying, right? And whether if we can provide the dates, some roadmap, as you're asking rightly, we'll try,
Yeah.
but I won't say anything more.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I understand that, and I think it's a very nice conclusion. I think, guys, it has been a very interesting insight on the project, on the process as well. I think it's helped a lot to understand everything going on, all the people involved, and I think it should also help us, and that's my message towards the community. It should also help us players to have a little bit more patience and understanding toward the uncertainties, because like Slivek used a lot that expression tonight, we don't know. And I think that's the reality. It's a very complex process, and I think that being said, we also see that the Ninth Age is a very balanced project in terms of I think we were very surprised as we saw the data post ETC to see some armies on top and some army below. For example, Poland that won, they had a lot of the worst army, and that said nothing. So I think it was a good example to say that actually the balance is quite good, considering the amount of factor and the amount of uncertainties and biases in the data. I mean, it's a job that, for example, Games Workshop struggles to do with his own games and all the resources they have in comparison to us. So I think let's try to not be too harsh, have a little bit of patience, and the project, I think, is agile enough to be able to adjust if it's needed, like you said.
Yeah, this is a good point, right? That it's really easy to blame, to say that balancing in this game is bad, right? In some way, and this should be always true, right? There will be always some arguments why we can criticize balancing in any particular game, right? Here, as you said, a lot indicates that still the biggest factor in winning or losing a game is nothing else than the player skill.
Yeah.
That's still the biggest indicator of winning or losing the game. Definitely, that's still the case. So we are much better than a lot of alternatives on this particular front.
Definitely.
It doesn't mean that this is end all be all, right? Because what I hope that it was highlighted enough in this AB update process. We are caring a lot about the player expectations, not about in terms of balancing, in terms of winning, losing, but also the experience of the players from the holistic side, right? So to have not only best balanced game, but also enjoyable one.
Yeah, that's very important.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you for this summary.
Thanks a lot, Slivek. It has been very interesting. I know that a lot of people will be watching it from replay. So, guys, don't hesitate. Also, if you have follow-up questions, I will try to look at them and see if I can give you an answer. But I think that was very interesting for us to help us understand better the process and also understand better what will be coming. Because, like I said, from tomorrow on, you get everyday reviews of newly produced army books. So you will see what's coming up from tomorrow. But yeah, really excited to see this update, how it works out. I think it's each year. I think one thing that's for sure the case with this project is that we have also the occasion each year to paint new units, which is also very important and very interesting. Because like you said, it's not only about the competitiveness, it's also about having pleasure to play new units, try out new stuff, and expand our collection. So that kind of stuff is also important for the long-term survival of the game. Anyway, Slivek, thanks a lot for your time. Do you have anything to add to conclude the discussion?
I think that we touched on some of deep topics.
Yeah, indeed.
I hope that it was not too tiring for everyone tuning in. I frankly enjoyed the experience. Thank you for having me.
Me too.
You're a good host, and I hope for more. Frankly, I think that project. I think that this is good closing note. I think that project should be speaking more towards community,
Yeah.
not only by the releases which we are doing, but also by showing this human face,
Yeah.
which is standing behind those updates, right? Because again, I'm one of the guys, right? As of now, just to throw some numbers at you, I'm one of the 7 guys in executive board.
Yeah.
I'm one of the 8 guys in senior design team, one of the 8 guys in pricing team.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I kind of feel like I'm not the most talkative one.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine what the others have to say as well.
Yeah, indeed.
Right?
Yeah.
We are having a lot of guys who are spending awful lot of time on this project, and they are doing frankly good work. I think that we are still here despite all of the circumstances. So I hope that we will be able to show a bit more of this human face standing behind this project going forward. So again, thank you for this opportunity, and I hope that this collaboration.
You're welcome. Yeah, I would be happy to continue as well.
Continuing.
Yeah. I think it's something we can do, and it's also interesting for us as players to understand better what's happening in the background, in the shadows of the project. And it's definitely something we could try to follow. Yeah, to conclude, a big thank you to everybody involved. I think you have been seeing, guys, how many people are involved, how many people did spend time for this kind of work, and it's amazing. So I think we can conclude to say thank you to everybody, all the volunteers involved in the project, because that's the way the game is surviving and thriving forward. And that's great. So thanks a lot for the people who invested time for that. And thanks to all of you to follow this discussion. I hope it was interesting for you. Like Slivek said, if it's something you would also be interested to hear in the future, to hear more about what's happening in the background of the project, let us know. It's important for us also to get feedback, because what I'm doing in terms of content is what you like, what you're interested into. So that's my main focus. So if you're saying like, okay, it's something we want more, we're interested into understanding more, and also why not give me some subject that you might be interested into, that would be a big help, definitely, to see that there is interest, and I could push towards that direction to bring you more. Anyway, we're going to close now. It has been long enough. Slivek, thanks a lot for your time. It has been really interesting, and we are looking forward to see the books who are coming out tomorrow. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for the that's what YouTubers say. Yeah, indeed. I don't have to say it this time. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll talk soon on the channel. Take care. So close. Okay.